Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, widely regarded as the top Canadian food industry podcast, according to Anthropic's Claude AI, so it must be true. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our guest on the show is Rob Kelly, Chief Commercial Officer at IKEA Canada, a 30-year veteran with a few tours in Sweden. One of the areas that Rob oversees is food. So if you're wondering why we're talking to what is the world's largest furniture retailer on a food industry podcast, they just published a global study on how people around the world are interacting with food, including Canadians. Sylvain, in addition to some super interesting and fun factoids, IKEA sells an unbelievable amount of meatballs.
Oh my God. Well, I'm not surprised that it's their bestseller, but my God, 70 million meatballs in Canada alone.
Yeah.
That's like 2 per adult, at least.
It's crazy. It's a great interview. And, Rob's, like I said, 30-year veteran, but I think he started when he was 18. So he's seen it all and has got a great perspective. And it's a fun study. And we'll be putting the link into the study into the show notes.
Who doesn't know IKEA? Who hasn't been to IKEA?
Right.
And work your way through it. Feel like a mouse through a maze, you know?
Well, as you know,
cheese, and the cheese are the meatballs at the end.
there's a payoff. There's a payoff. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, a reminder to everybody, we will be in Montreal for Ciel coming up. I just saw a rendering of our podcast studio. We'll be in a fun new location.
Nice.
If you've ever been to the Ciel in Montreal, there's a registration area before you go into the show. So we're off the trade show floor and in this other great area. So thank you, Mael, and all the team at Ciel. So we're super looking forward to that. Great days. Yep. And I'm coming to you live. You know where I am right now?
You are in, let me see here, either New York or Vegas, your 2 favorite cities. What is it?
I am in Vegas. It is March, so that means I'm here at this event called Shop Talk. Which is a big event, 10th anniversary. Just ran into a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah, you've asked me to go there, and listen, I never, because of my schedule, it's very tough to go to the United States. Although this year I'm actually in Tampa Bay at the University of South Florida, catching up on some work here, and it's been great. And but Vegas in March, it doesn't sound bad.
Well, you know what? It's 35 degrees today. Like, I've been here for the same conference 10 years in a row, and it's never, ever, ever been this hot. Like, some years I'm wearing a toque. It can be hit or miss. It's never been this hot before. The locals are really worried because if it's 35 degrees in March, if that's it. And so they're all talking about it. I was talking to the cab driver. He turned out to be from Toronto and he just moved here, and he's like, already my air conditioning bills are skyrocketing because it's 35 degrees. All right, now it's a dry heat. I know, it's a dry heat. Anyway, so ran into a bunch of fellow Canadians. The team from Best Buy Canada is here. Of course, it's a quick hop to them. So shout out to Best Buy Canada and seeing lots of familiar people. And I just got back from listening to my partner Steve Dennis from Remarkable Retail. He was interviewing the chairman of OpenAI, which of course is ChatGPT, and about the future role of AI in retail and grocery. Actually, some Hy-Vee guys were in the audience. And it's interesting because his view, and by the way, this is the guy who created Google Maps. He's the chairman of, this guy knows a thing or two about what he's talking about. He says, he's developed a new product, a new brand called Sierra, named after my daughter, no doubt. And it's all about these higher end chatbots. And he said, listen, I thought these chatbots would be taking care of our shopping at very menial tasks, like just go find me the dog food I'm looking for. But he's saying it's very complex tasks. And in retail, the money is in solving complex issues, right? So if you just have a headache, anybody will sell you a bottle of Tylenol, right?
Yeah,
but if I'll give you this example. I was talking, if you get divorced and you're going to restart your life, that's a complex problem. And there's a whole bunch of opportunity there for retailers, from furniture to clothes. So anyway, he thinks there's more opportunity for these AI chatbots in the fullness of time to help these more complex retail and grocery shopping issues. I just started GLP-1. What should I be having and where should I get it? Anyway, so it's super interesting. Super, super interesting. All right, well, let's get to the news. Now, gas prices are bouncing around a lot. Yep. I wanted to start with DoorDash. You mentioned DoorDash is kind of topping up some of their people with some extra cash to help for the soaring gas price. Of course, DoorDash does some work for some of the major grocers here in the country.
That's
So
right.
what do you make of this? I mean, it's a good thing to eventually that's going to flow through to the cost of goods, but for the time being, it's a pretty good idea, right?
I don't know about you, but my feeling about this cycle is that it seems to me that many operators are trying to get ahead of this before being asked, before this becomes an issue out there in the news. Because I remember back in 2022 with Ukraine, and even in 2008, 18 years ago, you did see calls coming from employees asking for some supplements,
mileage top up or whatever.
Exactly, mileage top up and things like that. I find this time, because attacks have been started in February 28th. It hasn't been a month yet, and of course we're starting to see higher fuel prices. But I didn't see any unions complaining. And right now you're seeing many companies, you know what, we're going to compensate you. We're going to do something, which I thought was interesting. So the industry seems to be getting ahead of this before it catches up to them, which is certainly good news for employees and for everyone involved. The problem, of course, is that it will end up affecting prices in both service and retail eventually much faster than what we saw with Ukraine. And Ukraine, there was a lag of 3 months. So my guess is that we may start seeing prices influenced by Iran early April, if not sooner.
Well, I filled up the F-150 earlier in the week. I had to take out a home equity loan to do it. Gas was so expensive.
Oh my God, yeah.
But then as I was leaving, the price dropped 10%. So it's really wild how dynamic, Trump comes out and says he's negotiating. The Iranians say, like, with who? Because it's not us, whatever. Yeah. But then the impact is immediate. So the prices are really seesawing around. It's pretty
I think I mentioned it last week, Michael, is that when you have this seesaw momentum around oil prices, diesel prices, obviously any company hauling food around North America will highball the price of energy. And so they'll actually charge as much as possible to make sure they don't lose money. And that makes it worse than seeing a gradual increase of oil and diesel prices. And so that's why I'm very concerned with what's going on with the White House, and because they're trying to minimize expectations, or at least the thinking around higher energy costs. And frankly, it's just not helping at all. It's certainly not helping an issue like food, where margins are extremely low, and there's no margin at all across the supply chain.
Well, let's go to the Manitoba, where there is some help coming in food.
Yes.
Now, did I read that? Now, I don't know if this is proposed, that Premier Canoe is talking about removing PST from all groceries. Is that happening?
Well, the budget actually was presented on Tuesday, so it is happening. It's in the budget. So, yeah, it was part of the budget, and so Manitoba will become the first province not to tax food at the grocery store. It doesn't include service, though. It's only the grocery store. And don't forget, Manitoba does not have the HST, so it's only the PST. So it's 7% in Manitoba. So and a lot of people are saying, I go to X and express my comments, and frankly, I think it's great. Maybe not for the reasons you and I think, or people may think. People will say, "Oh, it's going to save us a bunch of money." Not necessarily, but it's the optics. It's seeing an NDP government recognizing that they can actually do something with food prices at the grocery store, and they're doing it. I would say that Premier Canoe right now is the only politician in the country right now in Canada actually trying to do something to reduce food prices at the grocery store. And don't forget, what's taxed at the grocery store? Ready-to-eat products, processed foods, shrinkflated products that become snacks. All these things will disproportionately penalize seniors with a fixed income, singles. We don't have to buy. They don't buy bulk; they buy small portions. So smaller households are absolutely impacted by by retail taxes. So kudos to Premier Canoe and his government. I actually think this is a great signal, and hopefully other provinces will follow suit. Because I've always believed, and you know this, I've always believed that taxing food is immoral. Like, why the hell are we taxing food in Canada in both service and retail? And because right now, my only concern about what's happening in Manitoba is that you're basically giving an unfair advantage to retail at the ready-to-eat counter versus food service. So my guess is that restaurant operators will go to Winnipeg and say, hey, wait a second here. Can we get a break too? Because you're just rewarding the competition right now.
Interesting. Well, in the world of solutions, it's a great one. Maybe this catches the attention of the population.
But do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I think it's I think it's a way better idea than starting your own grocery store. Where
you're so un-Canadian. Right? Canadians love taxes. What are you talking about? They don't embrace seeing a government reducing taxes. Seriously, I see some of the comments on X. Oh my God, people, come on! I mean, you've been waiting for something to happen, some help. It's not a whole lot. It's something.
It is to some people. Right? It's this myth. It's for another day. This myth of the resilient shopper, right? It's a complete myth because there's not one shopper. There's people who are really struggling. We know the food bank lines are long, and getting longer. We know that when gas prices go up, that takes away not just discretionary income, but even essentials like food, right?
Absolutely.
And in fact, we saw some of that, a prequel to hearing about the IKEA survey. We saw people are doing behaviors like a percentage of people more in Germany than Canada, but Canada's doing it a lot too, consuming food past best before, which we're a fan of to a degree, but, is it an indicator of difficult circumstances? Probably is that as well, right? So in the good news category, Heinz Canada made a big announcement for an investment in Montreal. Talk about it.
Oh yeah, so this is great news. So $250 million to basically take care of this mega plant. I actually visited that plant last year, and I suspect that they were planning to do something. But I mean, Kraft Heinz Canada really has had a weird year, because last fall they were talking about divorcing, they were talking about splitting, and now we're seeing a huge investment into that Montreal plant. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, when I actually visited that plant, they cover over 600 SKUs with that plant. 600.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's one of the largest food manufacturing plant in North America. It is a massive plant. Oh yeah, they make of course Cheese Whiz, peanut butter, all the salads, dressings, everything. And I saw it all. Very automated, incredible. I was very impressed. But on the outside, you can tell. I mean, the plant itself is getting old. And there was no space to expand. And so my guess is that they're looking into expanding and increasing capacity. Because I'll tell you what, I haven't seen some clear numbers, but I think the Buy Canadian movement really helped Kraft Heinz in Canada. 70% of all Kraft Heinz products that are consumed in Canada are made out of that Montreal plant.
Wow. Probably food service and retail, I'm sure, right?
Food service, food retail, the ketchup, of course. And by the way, I actually got to learn why Heinz ketchup actually pours very slowly. I did ask the question, because when you buy another brand, it's more liquid, right? So they actually explained it, but I'm not allowed to tell you.
Great anticipation. Remember that old
That's
commercial?
right. So Kraft Heinz, great company. And people say, oh, yeah, well, it's crap food. It's ultra processed. Listen, when you look at a company like Kraft Heinz, there's this huge ecosystem that includes farmers, farmers from Quebec, farmers from Ontario. There's this huge ecosystem. They buy a lot of greens from farmers and processors in Canada. And so when you think about these products, you have to think about the ecosystem itself. So when you spend $1 in manufacturing, it represents many. There's that multiplier effect across the food supply chain. And that's exactly what we're getting. We got some good news from Mars last week for Ontario. Coca-Cola a few weeks ago, if you remember, $141 million in brand.
Yeah, we got some momentum going on.
Yeah. There's a bit of a renaissance. The thing is that they're all CPG companies. So I'm looking for smaller players that are scaling up. That's what we're missing in Canada right now.
Well, I want to stay with the CPG, the fast-moving consumer goods. McCormick is talking about buying Unilever's food business. Now, Unilever, they sold their ice cream business, and as I've been reading it, it looks like they want to really shed the food business and focus on health and beauty and the home. Is that your reading of it?
I think so. I mean, in the CPG space, things aren't great. It's not easy. That's why the Kraft Heinz announcement was a bit of it was a pleasant surprise.
A bit of a coup, really, yeah.
Well, the stock price for Kraft Heinz is down 25% year to year. I mean, and it's the same for Unilever. And so my guess is that they're just trying to offload some of the risks related to food and give it to McCormick. And frankly, I'm not surprised. So I think the deal will go through, and you'll see again a company reinvesting in some of the brands, but they'll be rationalizing for sure. And it's the same with Kraft Heinz. I don't expect Kraft Heinz to maintain 600 SKUs. It's getting expensive, to maintain all these SKUs.
Well, we saw that in the COVID era, right, where they said, we're just going to make the Pareto's law. It's typically 80% of the volume goes 20% of the products, right? So I'm sure,
exactly.
For Hellmann's mayonnaise, I don't know anything about their sales, but I can almost guarantee their basic great mayonnaise accounts for 80% and all that other stuff they make with olive oil and avocado, those kind of rounding errors.
Probably, absolutely.
Right? So staying in the La Belle Province, you sent me this note. I missed it about Quebec is selling ice cream to the Chinese. What's going on here?
80,000 tubs of ice cream going to China. And I was going, don't we have supply management in Canada? I mean, but it's expensive ice cream. They're not dumping it. They're not giving it away. They're actually selling. And this is the point I'm trying to make here, because a lot of people think that am I anti-supply management? I'm going against the dairy farmers. It's the opposite. I think they have a great product, and we should sell it to the rest of the world by 2030. If you remember my conversation with Gilles Froment, the president of the International Dairy Federation last year, he did say on our show that the world will be short 5 times Canada's national production by 2030. That's a lot of milk. That's a lot of product. And right now you're seeing this high protein demand rising. There's protein everywhere. Well, guess what? Dairy is going berserk. In the US, where I am right now, dairy farmers are selling a lot of proteins. So, and I'm looking at Canada, I'm going, why can't we take advantage of these opportunities? So I'm really happy, to be honest, that Chinese are going to be eating some high quality Canadian ice cream, and they should get more, because it's going to actually brand Canada. We're not going to be shipping just milk or wheat or canola or lobster. It's actually a processed stuff, right? It's a value-added product. It's
now, do you know? Could you tell who the vendor was? And I wonder if we know that the favorite flavor is that the Chinese like.
I didn't. That's a good question, actually. Maybe it's I don't know, lychee. Lychee ice cream.
Anyway, let's come back to the people.
But it's great. I think there's because they're actually manufacturing the ice cream right now, and they're probably going to be ramping up the production for the Asian market. Of course, ice cream is not easy to ship, mind you. It's ice cream, so and especially with energy costs right now, yikes! It's going to get expensive. But they want it. They want it.
Well, let's one last thing just before we get to our interview with Rob from IKEA. So I was reading in the New York Times, there's a large article on how the vertical farming isn't doing well. And it kind of put me back a little bit, because I enjoy and we've had guests on the show running vertical farms. Yeah. And the nub of the article was, it's impossible to compete with open field farming from a price perspective. Now, I remember last year you were on the show and you were traveling, I think it was Germany and in the Netherlands, and Austria, and they're doing amazing vertical farming. Now, I describe vertical farming as greenhouse farming. Maybe I'm mixing up the two, but what's your thinking around the competitiveness of growing elsewhere than a big open field?
Well, I mean, the greenhouse technology, both of them are environmentally controlled agriculture. The greenhouse is basically you're just letting the plant go through a regular cycle of production. A vertical farm, you accelerate the production cycle with special lighting, essentially. And so, for example, Good Leaf in Guelph, and we've had Bruce on, he can actually produce microgreens in 7 to 14 days. So
great product, by the way. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And so you can actually accelerate the production. It makes it easier to plan. Greenhouses as well it's not as intensive, if you will. But vertical farms are capital intensive projects. I mean, you got to really make sure you have a market for it. And I think that's why Good Leaf is successful, is because they have a good partner in McCain, and McCain understands the supply chain and grocers in particular. And so it's not easy. You need a plan. And so I'm not surprised that there are a lot of challenges out there. But if you have the right plan, I do think, and the right market, I do think there's some opportunities out there for vertical farming. But you need cash. You need a lot of cash. Yeah. All
right. Well, let's take a break. Let's get to our great interview and learn all about global food habits, Canadian food habits, and how IKEA is making fish balls for fish, I guess, that are also popular. Cod balls.
Cod balls.
Yeah. Just for the name alone, we wanted to have him on the show. All right. Let's hear Rob. Rob, welcome to the Food Professor podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
You know what? I'm very excited, Michael. Very excited to be here. So life is great.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Where are we? I know you spend time around the world. Where are we finding you today?
Today, I'm actually in the lovely, not so sunny Burlington, Ontario, where our head office is for IKEA Canada.
Good stuff.
Well, and if anybody's been on that highway between Toronto and Niagara, it's the big blue box on the right. So you can't miss it, right?
Very hard to miss. And by the way, Rob, you'll be happy this morning. I just saw my wife and I just ordered for $5,000 worth of furniture from IKEA for our daughters moving into Montreal. So there you go.
So Van, I feel like that's all the news I need. That's perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap on the interview. It's
exactly.
We've accomplished something here for sure. That's great. Everybody wins. As the folks at IKEA know, I also in my home office, it's all IKEA. So I'm all IKEA all the time. But we've never really talked about the food element. And you guys did a global study with Canadian elements. And I talked to Sylvain. I said, hey, you might not think of IKEA directly. You kind of do for food. And we're kind of curious to see what the learnings are and meet you. So who are you and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, that's great. And as I said at the beginning, really excited to be here, especially to talk about IKEA and food. But my name is Rob Kelly. I work as the Chief Commercial Officer here for IKEA Canada. It sounds like a very formal title, but I always joke that I get to work with all the fun parts of the business. So in my portfolio, I work with the sales organization, the marketing organization, the food organization, customer experience, online, all the fun parts of the retail business.
And how long you been with IKEA? I was reading your background. You spent some time in Sweden. So talk us a little bit about how you came to work for IKEA.
Yeah, that's I'm almost I don't know if I want to admit it, but actually coming up very shortly here, it will be 35 years for me with the company. Wow. And yes, been around, literally been around the world, which is great. Started when I was 18, literally unloading trucks for beer money before the start of university, and
Beer is one of the food groups for sure.
Exactly. No, but it literally started as a part-time job, and I was very, very lucky. I met some really good people that managed to convince me that IKEA was a great company to work for. And as I said, I've literally been around the world. I had the opportunity to work and live in Sweden a few times over the years. One of my kids was actually born in Sweden. So it's, 35 years is a long time, but can say I've never come to work and been bored in my life. So it's still, after 35 years, gets me up every day and keeps me going.
Everyone listening will know IKEA, but they may not know everything about, how big you are globally and then your presence in Canada. So share a bit of that for the audience.
If you take a look at it, I mean, we are the world's largest home furnishings company. And of course, as you said, I think people on the Canadian side are very familiar, right? 16 stores, 8 plan and order points. We've got 30 plus places for pickup for the full range and that. I think we're very well established here, and very soon, very, very soon, celebrating 50 years here in Canada. And that's a long time, right? To be in business. So I will leave that as a bit of a teaser for the listeners here to stay tuned. There will be some fun stuff coming up here as we enter our 50th year. But from a global perspective, as I said, the largest home furnishings retailer, stores literally in 60 plus countries around the world, and range being developed in Sweden. Obviously, we're a Scandinavian-based company, but I think our brand is very well known around the world from the design that we do. And yes, present in so many places, and most importantly, present in so many homes around the world.
Mm. Now, sustainability is very much part of IKEA's brand. I think most people, if not everyone who's gone to IKEA, would have noticed that. In your world, being an executive at IKEA, what does that really mean when you actually make decisions, when you're running the company? What does that mean really?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sylvain. And I can say, having been on the journey for so many years, I mean, sustainability, the one thing I feel is it's ingrained in everything that we do. And if I just give some of the basic ones, and they're basic for us, but maybe not so basic for other companies, just talk about solar panels on the roof. I mean, you talked about the big blue box earlier. We have quite a few blue boxes around. We have a lot of square footage on roofs that we can take advantage of, with the solar panels. And that's, as I said, that's a very simple one. If I go back to, I worked in product development for many years with IKEA as well. And if I think about, the agenda that we have in the development of our products, and we work with something called democratic design, right? Where we have different parts of that. And we talk about, form, function, price. But then, of course, sustainability is such a big part of that, because we know that the products we design and develop, of course, are not only for use for today, but also for the future. But more importantly, what does second life look like for those products? So that is part of products that you see. But then I think one thing that I always love to talk about here in Canada that I'm really excited about is actually the work that we're doing with our home delivery business today, using electric vehicles for that. I think the latest number I have is 71% of all of our deliveries are done by electric vehicles today. We have a goal to be at 90% by 2030, so we're well on our way. I saw we have a couple markets that are pushing 74, 75% already. So as I said, I just think it's such a cool thing. And I see even, our office here is located where our Burlington store is. Every morning you see the electric trucks lined up, they're loading them. And it warms my heart to be able to see that we're making such a difference on bigger scales, but also in the local communities as well.
That's great. Actually, our delivery for Furniture Montreal is scheduled for, I believe, April 1st, and it's going to cost us $46. Now, I don't know whether or not it's going to be delivered by electric truck, but it was certainly cheap and affordable instead of just going there and grab everything ourselves. So, yeah, great service anyways online.
Super good to hear that, Sylvain. And I really hope it's one of the ones that comes with electric. As I said, we're doing a lot of work in that field today, just even creating charging stations. Of course, we have charging stations for our customers, but again, you have those trucks, they need to charge overnight too. So we're doing a lot of behind the scenes and back of the house work to make sure that we can get all those trucks charged up and ready to go all day.
So let's shift gears a little bit and focus our conversation more on food. It is a podcast about food after all. And throughout my last few visits at IKEA, I have noticed that IKEA has become really more focused on food. Maybe it's my imagination, maybe because I look for food all the time, but it really seems IKEA seems to be this ambassador for food coming out of Sweden, other than Swedish meatballs, of course. Now, you've actually conducted a survey recently on cooking and eating. So why is a home goods retailer publishing and promoting a survey on cooking and eating?
Yeah, it doesn't. When you say it like that, Sylvain, it doesn't really make sense, right? We're in the furniture business, so what the heck are we doing talking about food? But I think to just take one step back, I think for me, we're obsessed here at IKEA about life at home, and we're obsessed by understanding what it means. I mean, if you go back to the vision that we have as a company, right, it's to create a better everyday life for the many people. And of course, the many people, that also is their homes, right? So when I say that we're obsessed about it, I mean, we are in our markets, all of our markets today, Montreal, Halifax, Quebec City, whatever market, we are actually out in customers' homes, doing interviews all year round, learning about how customers live. We focus on different parts of the business, no question about it, depending on what our needs are at the time and what areas of the business we're working on. But this year, our focus has been on cooking and eating in kitchens. So we've been out really spending time with consumers in the market, just in their kitchens. So what frustrates you, right? What's, if you could replan your kitchen, what would you do, right? How do you use your kitchen? What do you need for storage? All those questions. So we are obsessed about life at home. But of course, what we realize through that process is food, of course, is a big driver in people's life at home, right? And we know today, especially today in the world that we live in, right, the economic situation, that food has become a hotter topic, as I'm sure you're aware. And we know that people turn to us for life at home expectations. And that's why we started to dig in. And we really took a global survey. It's 31 countries, like 30,000 plus people. We had over 1,000 participants from Canada in the survey. So we really wanted to break it down to understand, what does food really mean for the average Canadian?
How long did it take you to conduct this survey? I mean, were they only IKEA customers, or did you talk to people who've never been to IKEA if they do exist?
Yeah. It gets trickier and trickier, right? 50 years in the country, a lot of people know who we are, but it wasn't a survey that was targeted directly to IKEA customers.
Okay.
It was done by an external company. YouGov is the name of the company, and so it's both customers and non-customers. And again, really just trying to learn what are the food habits, how are things changing, how are people, and I'm sure all of us have experienced ourselves as well about what does food culture look like today versus even 5 years ago, right? So it's really exciting for us.
So 30,000 people. So when was the survey conducted?
Yeah, we did it between August and September in 2025. So not that long ago. It took us a few months to get all that data together and really dig into the insights, and then really dig into the insights on a country level, which makes us excited here in Canada, because we actually know and have learned a lot from going through that.
Well, that's a great segue into, let's get into the survey. Let's start at the global, the top 10 things about the global. I was reading the survey and it noted, Sylvain, I'm sure you saw this too, Germans topped the list with 55% eating expired food, which we talk a lot about. We don't call it expired, just best before. In Canada, it's 1 in 4. Canadians eat out of date food. But tell us about some of the highlights internationally, and then we'll get to the Canadian insights.
Yeah, I think what was super interesting is some of those statistics you do see, and you see some anomalies, right? And I think that's the exciting thing when you work for a global company is, we know that food means different things in different cultures, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's a vital part of our existence, right? So it's everybody, no matter which country you're into, has a point of view on food, has an understanding, whether you talk about cost. The expired food, I think, is a really good one. I was shocked at the Canadian number. I was even more shocked at the German number, but I was even shocked at the 25% for us here. So we really, we took the global, and of course, we benchmark a little bit there, but we really spent most of the time focusing down on the Canadian numbers to, again, really understand what does it mean for our customers in our markets.
So share some of those Canadian insights. I mean, there's almost two. We'll put a link perhaps into the show notes. But I remember a day, Sylvain, I don't know if you remember this too. When I was growing up, TV had just became, it was now color TV, and we had TV tables, and we sat watching TV on TV tables, and not at the dining room table. Or I remember my mother was watching. My mother would always be watching like Young and the Restless or something while we were having dinner. But what are people doing today? I mean, you guys. IKEA would be interested in how many people are eating at a table versus I see 5% eat in bed. I guess you guys have beds as well. But what are the things that jumped out at you we've already talked about? Eating past the best before, but what other things kind of jumped out at you in the survey for Canadian?
Yeah, I think you mentioned an interesting one, and of course this one correlates directly to the home furnishing business, and that's the 38% actually gathering around a table, right? Then the 27% eat in a sofa, and I think the TV trays. I remember them, right? You used to clip them on underneath, and you never wanted to cut too hard on them, or else they'd shake like crazy, and all those things. But I think
trying to get through that hungry man steak dinner, right?
Exactly. But I think, if I just use that one example, I think what's interesting for us, and we've definitely already given that feedback is to say, what solutions do we have for eating comfortably in a sofa? And if I'm honest, today we don't have the old TV tray solutions, right? We have a couple of trays, but, I think that's an area that will come forward through a product development perspective to say, hey, maybe if we know that 27% are eating on the sofa, maybe that's something that we can do something with in the future, right? I think there was a couple of other things here, that was super interesting for me, right? And I know, one of them was geared around screen time. And, I have 5 kids. They're all older now, but I can remember back in the teenage years, screen time, my wife had a basket where everybody had to put their phone. So you could call it forced non-screen time, maybe is a way to put it. But, it's amazing when you start to really look at it, right? And take a look at that and say that only about 6% of the people that were surveyed view the table as a screen-free zone, right? So if I flip it around and say that's 94% of the people are sitting there with screens, right? And I think it's interesting, and I know you guys are probably into it. You see it when you're eating in restaurants, you see it everywhere, right? It's like that one for me, I follow quite closely because I think it's something that we all personally struggle with. I don't think any of us feel good about having the screens at the table, but it's almost become like a knife, fork in your screen, right? I think there's that was a big one for me. We talked about the food waste. The 1 in 4, I think, was eating expired foods, mostly again connected to not wasting food, right?
Probably some economics in that too, Rob, right?
Absolutely, right? With the cost of food these days, I totally understand it. But I thought this was an interesting one as well. We talk about being adventurous, right? And 35% of the people surveyed said they felt like they were adventurous in trying food. And I think Canada is one of the best countries to live in from a diversity perspective, right? And especially, I'm maybe a little partial living in Toronto, but the amount of the different types of food that are available to us, it's phenomenal, right? But 11% still say that they feel picky, right? And I think that's interesting as well. I think even if I felt I was picky, I don't know whether I would identify myself as picky, but that was one of the ones that really stuck out for me.
The folks in China are the least picky at 7%, and the Japanese are the most at 21%. So we're pretty agnostic. And the 6:12 p.m. is still the average time for dinner. I thought that would be sooner or later. Sylvain, anything from the survey jump out at you? Anything surprise you? Were you surprised at the 25% of Canadians eating past best before? And from your background, has that gone up? And any insights that you want to share?
Well, we feel it's gone up, but the food safety culture in Canada is pretty strong. I mean, we do have very strong food safety practices, and frankly, I mean, Canadians are spoiled, and so I do think, and food, and I know right now it's not a popular thing to say, but food relative to other countries around the world remains quite affordable in Canada. It's just right now what we're going through is a huge, violent shift. And that's why a lot of households can't keep up, and which is unfortunate, of course. But what's really interesting with this survey is that there's so many people involved, and the pool is so large, the sample is so large, and it really puts Canada. You can actually compare Canada with other countries, which is always I'm big on benchmarking, and so I thought the survey was really interesting.
I have one other one that really stuck out for me, and it's it made me feel a little guilty because I am definitely guilty of this. 32% of us snack at night versus a 20% global average. As soon as I read that, I thought, that doesn't feel so good. But it never feels bad when you're snacking at night.
No, that's right. Yeah. So we're snackers, and the snacking industry is really strong, as you know. And but I would argue that a lot of people that I see at IKEA will snack at your cafeteria.
Yeah, absolutely.
Off hours between lunch and dinner. I have to admit something to you. My own son went on a date at IKEA in Halifax. I don't know if you've been to Halifax, but the view is
yes.
It's a spectacular view, and a lot of people actually go on dates at IKEA in Halifax.
We have two stores, Halifax, of course, in the Far East, and then we have our Richmond store out in Vancouver. Both of those restaurant views are stunning. I actually think we even have a history in Richmond. I believe there was at least one or two proposals there over the years. Yes. And I would say, Sylvain, your son, obviously, he knows good value for money, because the restaurant at IKEA is a great place for a date. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and very affordable too. Prices are really, really cheap. So what brings me to talk about procurement, how you select your ingredients. I mean, you do have a Swedish brand. It's a foreign brand, a well-known brand, a strong brand, but you're feeding Canadians in Canada as well. So how do you actually balance both, supporting a international brand at the cafeteria, serving food, while, procuring food in Canada? Do you actually go half, and how does it work really when you select ingredients, and how do you design your menus?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sylvain, and I think it's a tricky question, right? For most countries, because of course we know food culture is so prominent everywhere, right? So when I will say this, when you think of IKEA meatballs, I think everybody thinks of Swedish meatballs and all of that. I mean, we have what we call core offerings. So I mean, the Swedish meatball dish, you can go to the US, you can go to China, you can go wherever, and you will find the Swedish meatballs. But to your point, we do have to balance that mix, right? Because of course, while we love our Swedish meatballs and our customers love our Swedish meatballs, we also have people that want to eat something else. So it actually connects in a little bit. Back in the fall, we actually did quite a dramatic change to our menu, and we introduced a new. We call it internally the round food menu, but we basically built off the Swedish meatball platform, where we said, okay. Of course, Canadians love the meatballs, no question about it. But then, what else can we do with that? So we introduced cod balls, for example. We have plant-based plant ball nachos, the pico de gallo on the top of that, which is amazing. We have falafel balls now. So you can hear we're trying to play a lot with it. So yes, we have a commitment globally that we'll sell the meatballs, we'll sell the salmon, but we do have some freedom locally here. And then I think from a sourcing perspective, of course, that's where we really want to shine. And I know for me at least, there's some fun stuff that I think is good. The cakes that we sell, extremely popular. That sweet tooth, we know Canadians love and love to snack on. The cakes we source here in Alberta, right? Our cinnamon buns are all done here in Toronto as well. Of course,
those are really, really good. Oh my God,
they are super good. I
can smell them at the cashier. It's so unfair. It's unfair.
I can say it's not done on purpose, but sure.
Yeah, sure.
If the smell happens to make its way there, then that's the way it is. But of course, when you leave, you've got to get a hot dog as well, right? And the veggie dogs. Of course, we get those locally. All the breads that we do, the buns. The water, I believe, our spring water, and that is actually sourced out of Quebec. So we do a lot. Our French fries, those are Canadian potatoes that are in there. So we really try to make sure that we take care of the local sourcing.
Your best seller are meatballs, I assume?
Our best-selling product as IKEA overall, even though we're a furniture company, it is meatballs. It is.
So how many meatballs a year do you sell in Canada?
Oh, you are not going to believe the number when I tell you. So I'm just going to tell you because I usually have people try to guess. But we sell over 70 million meatballs a year in IKEA Canada. It's
That's
crazy.
Almost two per Canadian.
It is absolutely crazy, and I love it.
Well, I actually do my fair share, just so you know.
And we're counting on you to continue to do that. And as I said, we've introduced, of course, the plant balls, and we have the falafel balls, and we're going to soon have chicken balls in there as well. So we count on you for more than just the meatballs.
That's great. Listen, Rob, we're out of time. How can we find out more about IKEA Canada?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to it's just www.ikea.ca, and you'll see in there we have, of course, links and to our press releases and the Life at Home report and the food report and all that. If you just go to our main page, you'll be able to find everything from there.
All right, Rob. Well, listen, on behalf of the Food Professor podcast, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate the time.
All right, we are back. We want to start with congratulations to Brenda Kirk, who's Senior Vice President of Health and Wellness. She's been at the Pattison Food Group for many, many years. A wonderful merchant. I've met her many times, and she was named one of the top 25 influential women health food, top 25 women in the health food industry. So congratulations. She's had a lot of roles. She's worn a lot of hats. And by the way, we are actually talking to him next week, a little bit of a promo. We've got Jamie Nelson, president from Pattison Food Group, on the show coming up. So we'll get to talk to Jamie. He's about a year and a half now in the new role, veteran of Pattison Food Group.
So with Jamie, I guess we would have covered all the CEOs of the major chains with the exception of Eric Laflèche from the Metro, but I know he doesn't do any podcasts, so
he's not. I don't think we're left out of the.
No, we're not left out. We did ask, and they politely declined, which is fine. Yeah. He's a great guy, and he just doesn't like the media all that much. He rarely does any interviews at all.
So you and I think a little more so, spend a lot of time in hotel rooms. I'm in one right now. And I've always been amazed at the hotel minibar. Now, there's a fun article in Monocle magazine about basically the minibar has been left behind. Like, why is it still the crappy minibar or super expensive, and it's getting undercut by all these DoorDash and these Uber Eats that are delivering right to hotel rooms? So when you're in a hotel, do you ever have anything from the minibar? Question one, and number two. What's the best minibar you've ever seen? I have an idea, but what's the best minibar you've ever seen?
So first of all, I don't typically The only thing I would need from a minibar is like a Red Bull sort of drink, like an energy drink for the morning. Because most of the time, the coffee, because I get up very early and nothing's open, and you need to make coffee in your room, and the caffeine's crap. So I might as well drink like before a jog in the morning.
This is my point, and this is Monocle's point, is it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, I know. You and I stay, like, right now I'm staying at the Luxor, which is, cheap and cheerful. Like, it's it's $90 a night kind of thing, right? It's cheap and cheerful. So there's no minibar, there's no
in Vegas?
No anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's really inexpensive to stay. But I've stayed in, some better hotels like the Standard Highline the Standard Highline in Manhattan, and it's such a beautiful, bespoke, great beverages, and I've seen that here at the Fontainebleau, where they actually pay attention, and it's a really lost opportunity, I think, because certainly the hotels, they're not going to make money. They're not going to make much money from the pay-per-view movies anymore, right? Most people are watching from Netflix, unless you want to watch something that is, not on Netflix. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
They still probably make a bit of money from that. But anyway, so all right, let's do a thing. I'm going to take pictures of mini bars and some of the best mini bars. We're going to keep track of it.
I should actually pay more attention. I mean, I would say, I don't look at mini bars at all. Like, I just don't use them at all. And for me, I'll go to if I need something, I'll go downstairs and ask for where I can buy something. But typically what they need, they'll actually offer it in the store downstairs, essentially.
Right. But my point is, if you did a great job at the minibar, you wouldn't be calling for Uber Eats and all these things, because you go, I'll just have it here, right? If people just want
That's true.
Anyway.
But isn't it like expensive?
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, remember, you used to have to pay for local phone calls. So that's gone away. But that being said, I'm paying this resort fee of $35. This is no resort, by the way. And what's included in that? Basically, Wi-Fi. So, they get you coming and going. like the resort fee is almost as much as the hotel room, and there's nothing in here other than it's safe. Anyway, don't get me started on that particular discussion. I want to talk about Americans, and nothing seems to stop them from eating steak. Sales at U.S. Steak restaurants grew more than 5% last year, and we all know how expensive beef is. And this was triggered by, I don't know if you've ever been to Wall Street. There's a restaurant there, a beef place called Delmonico's, and it is just a classic. And they're opening another one, and they're full throttle. And it's interesting. It's like double the growth in steakhouses than other full-service chain restaurants. So, I think it's mixed up in how much people are looking for protein, but there's a class of people who would just just love their steak.
Yeah. Well, I know that Americans actually love their steak. In fact, actually, the other night, we just stopped at a barbecue stand, like along the road sort of thing. I kind of like that. I'm a sucker for these places. It's you go in and you think that they are actually cooking roadkill, but they're not. But it's actually and the guy comes out with a pen and paper.
Yep.
Say, what'd you want? And then you actually say, well, a pound of this, a pound of that, briskets, whatever. Yep. And they disappear for 5 minutes, and then they come out with a bag. You pay cash only, of course. I just love, I feel like I'm making some illegal transaction here, but we brought it home, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Absolutely. Briskets, chicken, and pulled pork.
Back to China. They might like their ice cream, but apparently they don't want their wine. So the government has declared that none of the government types can have wine at any of their events, and the market is shook. Like Australia and these other countries, France too a little bit, but Australia particularly, had just boomed with Chinese imports. The imports fell 11% last year. They're now at half the peak levels of 2018, where China bought foreign wine at nearly $3 billion. Now that's $1.5 billion. This is not a tariff thing. Some of this is just like, we don't want you drinking so much wine, I guess. But there's a lot of grapes rotting in the fields.
Have you ever been to China?
I have not.
So when you go to China, as a Canadian, so I've been there as an academic and teaching, and so typically they'll have a banquet in your honor, like the night or 2 nights before you leave. And if you do not leave the banquet drunk,
not a
it's
success.
an insult. It's an insult. Exactly. It's an insult to them. Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the mentality that you find in China, is that they absolutely will actually make you drunk, and everyone has to be drunk. It's really incredible to watch. Even if you say, you know what, I'm on medication, I can't drink.
Mm-hmm.
You
no
drink.
Excuse. No excuse. Well, I guess this
so
is their way to turn that back.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing this shift right now, because China is becoming more Western. And if you go to China, you'll notice people still smoke quite a lot, quite a bit. Oh yeah. And so, yeah, you have to keep an open mind in terms of how China actually works, and they're happy that way. I mean, I'm not being judgmental here, but it's just different there for sure. The culture is very different, and the way they celebrate is different, and it's a great culture. And the banquets are I saw one time. They were actually doing hot pot. So you have a hot pot in front of you. It's like a fondue, but everyone has their own little dish. And they actually brought in for the beef, they brought in a sculpture, that looked like a sailboat. The sailboat was about 5 feet long, and 4 feet high. It was all beef, and you picked from the sailboat to heat in your hot pot. Oh yeah, well, and there was a show at the same time. They're incredible. They really treat you like a king or queen.
And it's something to ask Jamie when we were talking to Jamie from Pattison Foods, because I know that the general consensus among grocers is that Chinese consumer in Canada, or Chinese first or second generation, have redefined what fresh means in many categories, right? So a Canadian would call fresh, one thing, like saran wrapped, cut yesterday, but the Chinese consumer, fresh is like, I want to see it killed in front of me. So it has redefined certain areas. Like they demand a higher order of fresh. We should ask him about that. Let's make sure and remember that. See how he's dealing with that. Now I want to end the show on a fun note. I made mobster pasta last week, not lobster pasta, mobster pasta. So I follow this guy, and he's an ex-Gambino mob guy, Michael Francis, and I saw him on one of my favorite shows, Soft White Underbelly, and he's kind of found God and reformed, and he's an ex-mob guy. But of course, like everybody, he started a media company, and he's got his own wine and a thriving YouTube site where he tells mob stories and interview people about the mafia. But he also now cooks. So he made this pasta, and he's like, it's a sip. You take a bite. It's a bite you can't refuse, kind of thing. It was kind of funny. So simple. And I just want to tell everybody, I'll put a link into the show notes, because I'm going to do it as well. I got a few tweaks I'm going to make on my barbecue show. But basically, you take a bunch of olive oil. He put a full bottle of olive oil into a pan.
Wow.
Opened up about 15 garlic buds, just took them out of their skins, popped them in, let them confit a bit, threw in a bunch of cherry tomatoes, a bunch of basil, salt, pepper, crushed it all, and that was it. And then put it on pasta. I tried it with some whole wheat pasta. It was fantastic. And I'm like, how could it be so simple yet so flavorful? So anyway, that's my tip of the day.
That's a lot of oil.
It is, but it kind of left a fair bit. I cut the oil in half compared to what he put in. It was different. Right. But it was delicious. So a different way to make I usually make a red sauce pasta, which is a little bit of oil, but then a bunch of other stuff. This was a totally different way of making a pasta. I was skeptical. Call me skeptical, but then I made it, and it was really good. So anyway, I'll put a link in case somebody wants to give it a try, in case they're a pasta fan. So anyway, well, that's a wrap on this show.
Good tip.
Thanks. Yep, it's a good tip. Everybody who's looking for that kind of thing. I'm Michael LeBlanc, media entrepreneur.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain.